The Western pro-life movement cares about protecting young mothers and their children from harm. But historically, that's also what the law is designed to do. Will those laws be restored? Yes, they will. And we will show you how on this edition of Life Matters. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters, your program on life, culture, and the very real battle of ideas. And if you don't think there's a battle going on, then you've been had. Because the battle is for what you're thinking and what your loved ones think. And in this battle, it's not a mere metaphor. Real lives are at stake. So these ideas are very, very important. I'm very pleased to have a good friend, Karen Cross. She's the director of the National Right to Life PAC. And Karen, you have spent quite a few years, and we've been on the board of National together. You have seen the importance of why the law makes a difference. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, Brian, first off, I want to say, as political director of National Right to Life, I have to admit that I wasn't always very enthusiastic about being involved in politics. Mm-hmm. In fact, in November of 1984, we won't talk about how many years ago that was, but quite some years ago, the very first night I showed up at a pro-life meeting to get involved, I told them that very night that I would do anything at all to help women and their babies. Just don't ask me to get involved in politics. Clearly, I've had a change of heart. And what happened is that as I got involved, as I began to help women, I was helping with the Crisis Pregnancy Center. I was helping in other ways. But I began to realize how many lives we could save because of political action. What happened was I began to talk to women and young women and girls who'd had abortions, and they'd been lied to at abortion clinics. They'd been misled before they made this very, very important decision. And I thought that should be against the law. They shouldn't be able to be told. For instance, I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about Susie, who had a saline abortion at 18 weeks into her pregnancy when she was 16 years old. And she asked them, is it a baby? And they told her, it's tissue like liver. Now, we know about fetal development. We know that 18 weeks, the baby has fingers and toes and arms and legs and fingerprints and a heart beating and brain waves. And we've got a fully developed little baby in there. She just needs a little more time to grow. And she was told it was tissue like liver. And I remember hearing these stories and thinking that should be against the law, that it's not her decision. Anyone who believes in choice has to know that's not her decision if she's deciding based on misinformation or lies. That's right. So I began to work with West Virginians For Life to try to pass an informed consent law. And the chair of the Senate Finance Committee would block that legislation every year. And I finally realized, if we could just get rid of her, Senator J. Spears, the chair of finance, who wouldn't put our legislation on the agenda, we could just get rid of her. Maybe, just maybe we could pass this legislation, because I believed, and I didn't have the data that we have now back then. This is a long time ago. I believed that we could save lives if women knew the truth. And so we organized in her district. And lo and behold, the almighty chair, Senator J. Spears, lost her election. And we were able to go on and pass that legislation that said that women had to be given factual information before they made this decision, factual information about fetal development in scientifically accurate terms. She had to be told what kinds of help that would be available to her should she decide to carry the child to term, and even that the father of that child would be responsible for care of the child should she decide to have the baby, things like that. And the risks to abortion, the risks to childbirth, these are the kinds of things an informed woman has to make a decision. We were able to pass that legislation. We were also able to track that in the subsequent years, once it was fully implemented, the pregnancy rate for unemancipated minors didn't change, but the rate of abortion changed by hundreds every year.
Wow.
So we knew then that legislation was saving lives.
Yes.
So I have been in love with politics ever since, because we could save many children and women from the horror of abortion as well if we could pass pro-life legislation.
Yes.
For instance, the Hyde Amendment alone, one piece of federal legislation, the Hyde Amendment, is attributed to saving 2 million people. That one piece of legislation that just restricts the funding of abortion. It's not a perfect piece of legislation, but it is one that is saving lives and has saved 2 million already.
Yes. Karen, we're going to come back in a second. We'll take a break right now. I'm talking to Karen Cross, Political Director for the National Right to Life Committee. And we're talking about the power of legislation. And for those listeners who've listened before, and if you're a new listener, we talk about ideas, the power of ideas on Life Matters. And ideas do impact lives. Ideas do have consequences. And a lot of folks, as Karen just mentioned, are uncomfortable with politics, and that should not be the case. And you know why? Because politics is just ideas. Ideas that are enforced. And if we let people with the wrong ideas make our laws, you're going to get some very bad laws. So it's very important to understand the political process, to understand the battle of ideas. Don't be afraid of it. If you're involved in a local pro-life group, don't be dissuaded from being involved as a citizen. It's very important that you be a pro-life citizen if you want your laws to again, and soon we may be able in every state, to protect children in that state, as was the case before Roe. We'll be right back after this break, and we'll hear more from Karen Cross.
You're listening to Life Matters.
Power. You're pro-life and you want to defend your position, but you're not sure what to say. That's pretty common. So get the facts you need to back up your pro-life position with the Power of 7 app. The Power of 7 gives you effective pro-life replies to 7 of the most common pro-abortion arguments. It's simple, it's easy to use, and it's free. Power of 7. Download it now at thepowerof7.org. The Power of 7, the number 7.org.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life, on culture, and the very real battle of ideas. We're talking to Karen Cross, a good friend on the board of National Right to Life. She's also the political director for the National Right to Life Committee. And earlier, Karen had told us about how she was only involved in the crisis pregnancy aspect of the Right to Life movement until it occurred to her that abortions were taking place because of the laws in her state. And she just mentioned the Hyde Amendment. I want to remind all listeners that the abortion industry wants to, and in many states like California, it lives off the government dole. The abortion industry in California is a government-sponsored industry. They get their money from you, and your lawmaker should say no. But they won't unless you're involved in talking to your lawmakers and saying, this is a bad idea. I don't want my money going towards this. There's better ways to help women. Stop this. Stop giving our money. That's what the Hyde Amendment did on the federal level. We're working to do that here in California and throughout several states. Many states have completely eliminated tax funding going to the abortion industry. But there's other laws, too. Karen, tell us more. I really appreciated your point about informed consent, but tell us more about why legislation is the tool to save lives.
First of all, you mentioned the tax funding, and I know just a handful of states now fund abortion. But when a state restricts the funding of abortion, the numbers of abortions go down. There's data all over the place about that. I know that every year I look at South Carolina. South Carolina keeps great records. In that little state, there are 161,000 families currently who are blessed with a baby instead of despair and regret after abortion. Because of laws that have passed, they've been able to track the number of lives saved due to legislation that's been passed. And Brian, one of the things that some people don't understand is even the process of passing legislation. For instance, just recently, the U.S. House passed the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. This is a law that says that after the point at which science agrees that an unborn child can feel pain, and we believe that it could be earlier, but there's so much background. There's so much medical proof at 20 weeks.
That's
so that at 5 months and beyond, at the point that babies can feel pain, no abortion. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say 287 legislators voted on that legislation. That means that they voted to protect babies who can feel pain 20 weeks and later in the pregnancy. 5 months we're talking about. Babies, some of whom can survive. And of course, most of them can survive if they're only left alone.
That's right.
To live in the womb. But just the process of talking about that legislation in the news, in the media and in churches, raises the awareness, babies can feel pain, and it makes the babies more real to people. Right. So say a young girl who's contemplating abortion, when she hears that that baby can feel pain, she may be less likely to choose abortion. Or people who are surprised because they don't understand what Roe versus Wade did, which essentially allows abortion throughout pregnancy when you include Doe v. Bolton, the companion decision that defined how the third trimester is how they determine abortions. The process of passing the laws educates people. I remember, for instance, when we were working to pass the partial birth abortion ban, that's been now quite some time ago, but we weren't successful in the beginning. I know you were involved back then too. And it took a long time, but it took a lot of educating. And, every time we pass laws, we have to educate ourselves, educate the public, educate the media, educate the legislators. It's a lot of education.
Yes.
But I remember I was talking to, and of course this is gruesome, and anyone who's listening needs to know that when we talk about abortion, it's ugly. There's no good way to kill a baby.
That's right.
And when the description about this abortion procedure...
People who are familiar with the debate over partial birth abortion, remember, these are children who basically are already being born.
Yes, they're inches from birth. Killed. This is a baby who's been delivered feet first until all but his head is exposed. And he's still alive at this moment, and he's now breached, been delivered feet first. His head's the only thing being held in by the abortionist, who takes blunt scissors and punctures the base of his skull, inserts a high-powered suction machine, suctions out the baby's brains. Now the baby's head collapses, and the now dead baby is delivered. Now this is...
It's not part of the woman's body.
When we were first hearing about this horrific method of abortion, I remember getting a phone call from a pastor saying, you're mistaken. That is not happening in the United States of America. You're talking about China. And he was shocked to learn, and I had to convince him. It wasn't until it was being debated on the Senate floor when Senator Santorum, then pro-life Senator Santorum, was debating the procedure using the diagrams on the Senate floor, that he believed finally that we were actually talking about something happening in our great country. But the process of passing that, even though it wasn't originally successful, talking about that opened people's eyes about the horrific methods of abortion that are being done in this country. And like I said, there's no good way to kill a baby. So I'm not going to talk about the methods, but...
That's right. We have to talk about the child in the womb. I remember that debate and how our Senator Boxer from California, after Senator Santorum made that statement, she was incensed that something so obscene should be mentioned because there were pages. These were minors that were present in the Senate chambers. They should not hear this going on. But she's willing to encourage, and she voted for it to continue, that the action itself goes on.
She agrees with that procedure.
It's insane.
She did everything she could to keep that procedure legal. It's now, of course, been upheld by the Supreme Court, and it's now law of the land that you can't do this egregious procedure. Fortunately, as we continue on this path, we'll be able to protect more and more of these babies.
That's right.
Older and even earlier on in the pregnancy.
That's right. Karen, and I do want to remind folks that the other side and the dominant media culture, what I call the pop media, but most media outlets, they don't talk about this. Remember, they use words like choice, reproductive rights, or terminating a pregnancy. Well, as I said, I'm the product of a terminated pregnancy because pregnancy is a condition. And when you give birth, you've ended your pregnancy. It's not the same as killing a child. They don't want to tell you that they want to legalize and continue to protect and pay for killing human babies. That's just
using our tax dollars, by the way, yours and mine, using our tax dollars. When the government funds something, it's not free. It comes from somewhere, and it comes from your tax dollars and my tax dollars. And most people don't agree.
That's right. That's where even pro-choice people say, well, we don't need our government paying for this. You know, people are free to get any car they want, a Cadillac, get a Toyota, but that doesn't mean that the government has to buy it for you. You're free to choose what car you want. So we can get pro-choice people that think they're pro-choice to agree with us because they don't understand abortion. It's not being discussed. The particular bill that Congress passed recently, this is in the fall of 2017, is a very important law, I believe. And again, laws are simply ideas. And this law has to do with the pain of a child. Karen mentioned quite clearly, there's many indications that the child feels pain much earlier. But at 20 weeks, it's incontrovertible. No honest scientist can deny that. And if you've been to any pro-life website, if you've ever been pregnant and been kicked, you know this is a living human being that can feel and touch.
And there are many, many medical studies that back that up. And when I've had to testify before legislatures because, 20 states have now passed that law.
That's right. More than 20.
And in the process of passing it, we have to submit medical findings that support this, and we have the backup to support that science demonstrates that these children, these babies can feel pain, and they do. And they feel it. It's very excruciating pain.
That's right. And those of you who remember, he was a good friend of the life movement. Both Karen and I knew him. That's Dr. Bernard Nathanson. He had killed and overseen the killing of more human babies than any other physician in history.
60,000, if I remember correctly.
He was a founder of NARAL, National Abortion Rights Action League, and he finally came to his senses. And he made the film Silent Scream, where literally the child is trying to get away from the curette, the instruments of death that are about to kill her. And so this is something that's not talked about. We want you to realize that you need to talk about it. You need to ask people. You need to make sure that in your church, if there's a Bible study, if this discussion comes up, make sure the facts are discussed. Because in the Right to Life cause, the facts are on our side. And facts are terrible things to waste. So try not to get into the emotions of it. I think it's great. I think everyone that I know in the pro-life movement has some theological background, and that's great. But this isn't about our personal theology. This is about self-evident truths. The laws of our nation are based on self-evident truths. We hold these truths to be self-evident. And the first one that's asserted is the right to life. So make sure that these facts are talked about and that it's understood. This could well be the issue that takes down Roe versus Wade because of the several states, as Karen mentioned, that already have these laws. These laws are already there and been passed, and they haven't been challenged by NARAL because they're terrified. And this is why, as Karen pointed out, that in Roe and in the companion decision Doe, Justice Blackmun basically said the child has no rights. The entire abortion question is all about mom. And basically he said what was said in the Dred Scott decision. That human being is chattel. It's a thing that's possessed and can be disposed of at will, and that was the issue in slavery. And that was a terrible Supreme Court decision. And the Dred Scott decision and the Roe versus Wade decision have that in common. They declare a human being to be a thing that can be thrown out and killed. You know it's alive because you kill it. We know it's valuable because Planned Parenthood sells those organs and body parts for human experiments. This is a terrible thing. The more you examine and talk about it, the more the right ideas can be examined in your nation. And that's the only way we're going to change our culture and change our laws.
Right. The court was wrong then, and they're wrong now.
Yes. And so hopefully we're going to see some changes soon. This debate is incredibly important. Don't be dissuaded by your opponents who don't want to talk about it or bring on some other tangent. Go to nrlc.org. That's the National Right to Life Committee. You'll find lots of information, particularly right now, on the Unborn Pain-Capable Act, and it's a hugely significant bill. The facts are there. Please use them. And we hope to have Karen back another time because there's a lot of things happening Again, ultimately, ideas that are enforced become our laws. In fact, it impacts all of us. So there's many aspects of this. 2018 is an election year. You, as a citizen, need to be involved. Don't look at it in the newspaper. Don't be told what people are doing. You find out where candidates stand. You find out, as Karen and I have both personally found out, you can help those who have good ideas. And you can actually expose the bad ideas that pro-abortion advocates that now have office. Well, you need to expose that these people are pro-abortion. They're not pro-choice. They're pro-abortion. They're not about ending pregnancies, again, because birth ends a pregnancy. They're about killing that child. That's what's really going on. And if you're not willing to examine it, and you can still be nice, but you got to tell the truth. So, Karen, it's great to have you. Really appreciate your friendship and your work with the National Right to Life Committee.
Thank you.
You and I know this is the most important issue that faces our nation. I believe it's the very foundation of America's freedoms, is the value of every single life. And the government didn't give it to you. It's the government's job to protect your right to life. It hasn't been doing that for the most vulnerable. So please go to nationalrighttolifenrlc.org. If you're in California, the California Pro-Life Council, californiaprolife.org. If you're in any other state, you're listening on podcast. At National Right to Life, you can find your state affiliate, because the laws of all the states at one time did protect these children. And our goal is to have those laws protect children once again.
You're listening to Life Matters.
Well, hi. I just wanted to thank you for joining me. You know, I have good friends, children, young adults, and adults that have Down syndrome. And they are so loved. Their parents love them so much because they're the happiest people you'd ever want to know. I really love them. I'm going to tell you something, though, that's rather frightening. The government of France has now prohibited showing positive images of Down syndrome children and letting parents know how lovable they are. That's an actual law in France. Here in the U.S., 80-some-odd% of Down syndrome kids are killed by abortion before they're born. In France, it's 96%. So we're not a whole lot better. If you'd like to help out, you can go to the National Down Syndrome Society, ndss.org, to help out. That's ndss.org. We really are in a battle of ideas, and lives really are at stake.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on life, on culture, and on the very pressing and real battle of ideas. Those ideas are pressing on all of us. You have to be ready to address them. Their goal, in terms of our culture, is to change your mind, to get it off base, and to allow the culture to continue killing innocent lives. And so, when we look at the right to life, we have to examine what it is. The right to life was asserted as a statement of political philosophy by our founders. They all agreed that government does not give you your value. It does not give you your rights. In fact, its purpose is to protect your rights. That it's human beings that created government in the first place, and that a just government derives its powers from the lives of the governed, and not the other way around. And so what should just laws be? Well, the first thing is they should first and foremost protect the lives of those that cannot protect themselves. And that's in direct contrast, if you've studied even a little bit in terms of history, against the contrast of the idea of lex talionis, or the law of the jungle. And that's where the laws of society are. If you're strong enough to take something from someone, if you're strong enough to take their life, then go ahead, because you're the powerful one. And it gives all rights to the powerful, and it denies the rights of the weak. And of course, our founders knew that that was an unjust society, and Western culture has always been striving to make sure that the law of the jungle, or lex talionis, not be the law of the land. And so we inherited in the founding of the United States the distillation of the values of Western civilization. You'll often hear now, in terms of the battle of ideas, that there's an attack on Western civilization, that somehow the Western civilized world was corrupt and therefore we should change our values. Be wary of that. Be very wary of that, because they want to take apart the foundations of this culture. The right to life is a foundational element. And we want to make sure that as you pursue this, that you present the self-evident truths of the right to life. It is self-evident that in the case of abortion, that's a human baby. with a beating heart, brain waves that are measurable after 50 days. But these are things that are objectively clear. It isn't my faith that makes that baby's heart beat. This isn't about my faith or belief. This is about what's objectively known. And we need to make sure that as we pursue the laws that the founders wanted us to pursue, the self-evident truths upon which laws need to be made, make sure that you're pursuing the facts. The facts are on our side, and facts are terrible things to waste. So listen in to Life Matters. We're here to help equip you in this very real battle. We know it's going to get more intense as these years go on. And when Roe is overturned, you can be sure that throughout the nation, some states will indeed protect the child again. Other states are going to have an incredible battle of ideas. You need to be equipped for that battle. Make sure that if you want to find out more, go to lifematters.life if you're listening to the podcast. In California, airtime in California is paid for by the California Pro-Life Council, which is dedicated to restoring the right to life. We work with the National Right to Life Committee to make sure that people of all backgrounds that want to see innocent life protected, make sure that we can work together to see our laws once again protect the innocent. Go to CaliforniaProLife.org. That's all spelled out, no hyphens. CaliforniaProLife.org. And let us know you're listening. Send us an email, info@CaliforniaProLife.org. That's info@CaliforniaProLife.org. And tell us what you'd like to hear us talk about, some of the questions you might have. Life Matters is here to serve you. If you would like more information, again, go to CaliforniaProLife.org. Remember that the facts are on our side, and facts are terrible things to waste.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sorbo, and I was very excited when I heard about LifeFest Film Festival. LifeFest is the film festival dedicated to showcasing films that affirm the intrinsic worth of innocent human life and the profound significance of each life. One seemingly insignificant person can in fact change the whole world in which he or she lives. That one singular life ends up being of vital importance. I'm so glad to hear that you are cherishing that in this film festival and are committed to artfully and creatively protect the lives of those who can't possibly promote themselves.
Life Film Fest is dedicated to bring the message of life to Hollywood and to our culture. Go to lifefilmfest.com and get your tickets now. That's lifefilmfest.com.
Find out about the exciting cultural change impacting Hollywood. Go to lifefilmfest.com. Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. If you have questions or comments for Life Matters, call 800-924-2490. Give us your name and the town you're calling from and a quick question or comment. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life. Wherever you are in the nation, you can find out more at National Right to Life. You can find vital pro-life information and also find the access to your state and local Right to Life affiliate. Get informed and get involved.